Welcome to Life Unlearned. My name is Zenitra Perry. I am the creator of Life Unlearned. And this platform was created to truly examine the expectations that we had for life and then kind of the things that we had to unlearn in order to truly create the life that we wanted to live. As you know, expectations come from so many different places, whether it's from society, media, your family, religion, even geographically, where you grew up. All of those things influence the expectations that we have of adulthood. And it's interesting because, up until college, the plan for success is kind of laid out for you. You know what you have to do. And whether you follow that plan or not, there's kind of one there for you. And then we become adults and it's like, oh, you're off to the races to do whatever it is that you wish. So these expectations oftentimes fuel the steps that we take. And whether, they work for us or they don't work for us, we kind of navigate life trying to live up to those expectations or fulfill those expectations. But then sometimes things happen and we're like, wait a minute, I don't know if I truly like that thing that I was working for, or if this thing that was presented as of value is as valuable to me. And so our conversation is going to be around the process of unlearning, identifying those things that no longer work for you, and then really exploring the evolution of how you think and how you're able to create the life that you truly want. So we'll kick things off. Very excited to have our guest, Kamella Emmanuel, here with us today. We're going to have an awesome conversation. So Kamella, we'll kick things off. When you think about your life, specifically as it relates to your career, your 9 to 5 and making that transition over into entrepreneurship, could you fill in the blank for me? I used to think, have at it.
I used to think that I could never be an entrepreneur and it was always for other people and not me. So let me expand upon that. So coming from an immigrant family, I'm from the UK, and there's no one in my family is an entrepreneur. So very much the style and the expectation is that you study hard, you get good grades, you go to college or university and you get a good job, right? Whatever that means, a good job. Typically one that's, got benefits and you can stay there and get a pension forever and ever and ever. And so entrepreneurs and business people seemed to be for others. And it just wasn't something that I even remotely thought I could do because it just seemed really hard. And, I don't know anything about it. So this is kind of my path.
That, I think proximity to a thing definitely influences whether or not you think you're capable of doing it. Let's take a step back. Let's talk about your 9 to 5, and we'll get into the entrepreneurship thing. But let's go back. Tell me about your career. You have a very, very interesting career trajectory. That if I think about it, I don't know that I would think that I could do that. So can you share with us what your career journey was like up until right before you were ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship?
So I sure can. Initially, once I graduated college, I wanted to be a teacher, and I worked with children who were excluded from schools. And so I thought, this is going to be great. And that was kind of the area I wanted to go in. I did that for about 3 months and realized that wasn't for me. Just challenging, and I didn't find it fulfilling. And so I looked around and thought, oh, I love to travel. And I think I must have read somewhere or saw something in the newspaper that was talking about a career for the public service, foreign service, and you could have an opportunity to travel. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna try that. And it was working in government. So, gosh, this is some 20 plus years ago. So I applied and I started off, most people don't know, as an immigration officer. Okay. Right, so I started off as immigration, checking people's passports coming in and out of the country. And in the UK, it's really great. You have an opportunity to do lots of different things. And I was on this thing called fast track. So I was in immigration, I was in management, I was in leadership. And all of that was going to propel me to eventually go overseas and be a diplomat. And so you're supposed to spend traditionally 8 years. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to fast track that. So when I joined, they were like, oh, you need to spend your time. You need to do your time. It takes about 8 to 10 years before you get to be assigned overseas. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to be my story. And so I just kind of worked really hard in a short period of time. And within 3 years, I got the opportunity to bid and go overseas, spoke to my husband about it, and I was like, what do you think? And we thought it was just a great opportunity. I had one child at the time, and you don't know where you're going to go. Put in a bid, and they let me know within about 6 weeks that you are going to be going to Abuja in Nigeria. And I'd never heard of Abuja before. So I was like, happy I was going somewhere, but honestly didn't know where that was. Didn't realize that that was the capital of Nigeria. And that was our first time visiting Africa, and we were beyond thrilled and excited. So that was the start of my kind of diplomatic career, and it was going to be a three-year posting, a 3-year tour. And so we thought, oh, we're just going to do this, and then we're going to come back to London. And we did it. And when we were there, we were like, yeah, we want to keep doing this. Like, we don't want to go back home. And literally that eye-opening experience was the beginning of my diplomatic career of going to several different countries. Every 3 years, I would go somewhere else with the family.
So you talked about your love of travel. What are some of the other things that you loved, and how were you able to incorporate them into your career, even at the early stages when you're in your 9-to-5 and trying to figure out what you want to do? Like, what other things do you love, and how did it fit into your professional life?
So it's funny, I said, when you actually look back and you see how everything's connected. So I wanted to be a teacher, right? And so I'm a coach, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But I realized that I've always been a coach. I may not have had the language. It appeared to be as a teacher at that point in time, right? And so as I went even overseas, how can I teach? How can I pour into people? How can I inspire women? And that, I think, became really, really evident going to Africa, just in terms of seeing the conditions and particularly the opportunities that weren't there for women. There was a lot of expectation for boys to be able to do well. And so I used, I guess, my love, my gifts, my skills to really encourage the women that I came in to encounter there, encourage their daughters to be able to get an education and not focus on having them be married, but knowing that if you educate and you train a young woman, that really impacts the next generation. So I did a lot of that while I was overseas. I did some tutoring while I was overseas. So I guess the teaching piece came just working with kids one-on-one in the evenings.
It's interesting because, like you said, in hindsight, the path makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
but we could have never have planned it ourselves. Like, this is going to be how I'm going to get to where I'm going to be at, 10 years, 20 years down the line. I love the thing that you said about breaking the rules. One of my sayings I have is, you have to learn the rules to play the game, but don't stay there. Like, eventually you have to break rules in order to, break through ceilings that have been created and truly create a path for yourself. What was that experience like? Kind of what were some of the emotions that you were feeling? Who was in your ear, positive or negative, when you're going through this process of like, yeah, I know it takes 8 to 10 years, but I think I'm ready to do this now?
So let me also say, I'm joining a career there. They were all either admin assistants or